Welcome back to another episode of Intelligence Resources, where we talk to people actually using AI inside their business. It's not just talking about using AI. I am Brittany George. I'm your co-host today. You may be noticing that Samantha Viola is not with us today, but we do have a very exciting guest, Phil Nahajewski. He's the partner of Florida CFO Group and the creator of Philnancial OS. Phil uses AI in a place where getting the answer wrong actually matters, financial decision making. So welcome, Phil. Thank you so much for joining us on Intelligence Resources.
Thank you, Brittany.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
for pronouncing my last name right and for calling me exciting. I aim to be half as exciting as you.
Well, when we first met, we shared a lot of interest in AI, and I know that you have this one thing that was really cool that you said you have 3 brains on every single decision. So tell us a little bit about what that means when you say you have 3 brains on every decision.
Yes, there's a term for it called triangulating your way to the truth. And even before AI, I think it always was helpful to have the CEO or business owner collaborate with the CFO and have a third voice in the room, which might be the voice of the front lines, whether they're frontline employees or the customers. And having 3 perspectives gets you to a better version of the truth to base your decisions on. And I think where AI comes into play, at least my experience with my clients and business owners I serve, is it's like it's a third brain in the room. The business owner knows their business better than anybody because I've been a CFO for 36 years. I know that space better than most people. And having Claude as a third person in the room just gives that perspective of what the outside world might see as a result of our discussions and decisions. So it feels like we're triangling our way to a better result.
So before we talk about you and your background, just give me an example of a financial decision that maybe you turned out differently because you were using AI.
Well, last year, earlier in my AI journey, I was helping as a fractional CFO a $100 million cement company. And we had a big decision to face as we worked on planning our capital budget for the upcoming years. One thing about the ready mix cement business is you can only serve customers within 45 minutes away from where your plant is. So the owner who had growth aspirations was buying property at strategic locations, and he had owned 4 such pieces of property and had learned over the years he had the capacity, both staffing and capital wise, to do about 1 a year. So it's very important which one to do first. And I was so surprised that I could get an excellent answer from ChatGPT by putting 4 addresses into a prompt and asked for projections of 3-year housing starts from a 45-minute radius of these 4 addresses. It blew me away that it had that kind of power, that kind of specific output to actually give growth projections by location. And I think in pre-AI, the approach would have been to bring in a consultant and give them 45 days and 20 grand, they'll get you an answer. But this was me running into ChatGPT, showing up the next day with a report that then I reviewed with the owner, who, by the way, was a little smarter than ChatGPT because he had some inside knowledge about what housing developments were being fast-tracked or delayed, and we collaborated on getting an answer within 24 hours instead of a costly decision that would take 45 days.
That's awesome. That's a great story. So when you're thinking about the 3 brains, and you've been using it obviously a lot over the past 3 years and finessing it over time. So when you think about the 3 of them, what does each brain know that the other one doesn't necessarily know?
Yes, well, the business owner, of course, knows the business that they built, usually from scratch, from the ground floor up, knows his team, he knows the competitive landscape. He knows so much about his business, having lived it and had it been a major, major part of his life for so long. So he brings that internal perspective of the business as well as the market conditions very well. I bring knowledge on the a wide range of business approaches. uh, when you're a CFO for 36 years for a big mix of businesses. And I've been a fractional CFO for 5 to 10 businesses a year for the past decade. I've seen a lot of things that have been tried, a lot of things that worked, a lot of things that don't work from a people, process, and technology perspective. And I also have this learned art of being able to look at the financial statements of the business and identify what are the strategic priorities that should be focused on first. And those two are combined are pretty powerful. But there's a third brain, whether last year was ChatGPT, this year I'm migrating to Claude, that has this global view of all the other brains in the world who actually have tackled problems like this in the past. May be able to add customer perspective, may be able to add legal perspective, just perspectives that are supplementary to our other two. And that three-headed monster is pretty powerful.
That's awesome. So you just mentioned that you moved from ChatGPT to Claude. What was the decision making and reasoning behind wanting to move from ChatGPT?
Well, Claude leapfrogged ChatGPT in functionality and capability, especially for financial folks. It's got incredible powers that I think it just outperformed ChatGPT in a big way. And by the way, who knows what's going to be number one next year? That's the thing about technology leapfrogging each other. You need to be nimble enough to ride on the fastest horse at the moment.
Was it difficult for you to migrate your data over from Chat to Claude, or did you find it easy to do?
I still have chat and I use it as my personal assistant, whereas Claude's my business assistant. Because I already bought the year subscription. By the way, it's one lesson I learned. I'll share with the audience. Is I thought I was saving a lot of money buying a lot of annual subscriptions, but then it turns out 6 months later, you wish you had something else. I think month to month is a better way to go in this day and age of rapid movement of software. But no, it just helps to be talking with other experts and learning what can get you to a better place faster. I'm blessed in that I'm in a Florida CFO group where over a dozen of us have been trained in AI that we can compare notes on and what works, what doesn't. I go, as you've gone to, Brittany, the AI salon of groups where you get lots of brains together to collaborate. And I have two very Claude forward clients who are way ahead of me in Claude than I am. And I can ride their shirt tails to the fast track of knowledge as well. So I think we're all learning it together.
So when you say you were trained on AI, did you, I think I remember you at one point saying this, but did you have formal training on AI?
Yeah,
Was that
somewhat formal training. This goes back to December 2024, about a little more than a year and a half ago. I had to share a car ride home with a partner from a Tampa Bay area Florida CFO Group partners meeting. And if you probably know this as a local, Brittany, that I-4, you throw in the holiday shoppers, vacationers, the ride home from Tampa ordinarily is an hour and a half. This was a 3-hour ride. And for the entire 3 hours, Don Retrieves, my partner, who had been on a team that had everybody from the CFO to CEO to the receptionist trained, turned into AI black belts by Kevin Connor of Repeatable AI. Shout out to Kevin. This was right before New Year's, and my New Year's resolution after listening to Don for 3 hours was, I'm going to find this guy and make him my personal coach. And you say it was a formal training, kind of, but the world was moving so fast that a lot of times we varied from the formal training to say, hey, this was what I was going to talk to you about, but this just came out this week. I mean, that's the nature of AI training, having a personal coach who can not just stick you to a formal program, but can keep you in pace and in step with the week-to-week changes in the business, because every week something new and exciting happens in the world of AI.
So when you think about, this podcast is, really for the people that are maybe late adopters or haven't really got into it. So would you recommend that someone take the path that you do, or do you think that anybody can just get started on their own without having the help of somebody else?
Well, there are a lot of programs out there now, and they may be beneficial, but I find that the best teacher on how to use Claude is Claude. you just ask Claude, help me understand. I'm trying to accomplish this objective. What do you recommend? And it can walk you through the Claude Cowork, Claude Code, Claude AI. There's a place for every one of the Claude functionalities that can help you advance your business. And I think the fastest path and most affordable path to learning is to learn to ask Claude.
Right. Yeah. Amen. I completely agree with that. And I'm self-taught, early adopter, and I just constantly am asking it to go into tutor mode and teach me new things. And sometimes everybody talks about how much time it saves, but on certain on tasks specific, but overall you spend so much time in it. You tackle more
Yeah.
projects, you find new things. There ever been a time where you were using Claude or ChatGPT and it saw something that you didn't, or blind spot that maybe you had?
No, no, all the time. I have 5 to 10 clients at a time, and there's a limit to what can stay in our brains, right? And there are things that it will tell me about that I'll say, "Oh yeah, I should have remembered that." It's just like having a second brain. I did an AI salon talk about how I grew up with a twin brother, and we were identical. And first 16 years of life, always together. And I was so my life goal when I was a teenager was I want to not be a twin anymore. I want to be my own man, and I achieved that. I got myself a motorcycle, went away to different schools. We lived in different cities almost our whole lives, and so it's kind of a psychotherapist would have a field day with the fact that the first thing that I do when AI comes along is I create my own new identical twin. I call him Second Phil, and he was like my identical twin, so I could bounce ideas off of my strategic thought partner, and reminding me of things that yeah, I knew that, but it just didn't pop to the surface of my brain because there's advantages of having all this experience, but there are also limits to what you can remember, and it does an excellent job of bringing things to the forefront that you can sometimes say, "Oh yeah, I knew that. Should have remembered it."
Has there been a time where Claude or ChatGPT got something completely wrong and you were able to catch it?
Well, yeah, it makes mistakes, but so do our employees, right? So do humans. I've been also managing people for like 45 years, and you get good at finding the errors that your people make. It almost feels the same way with AI. You just need to think of it as an employee that's learning. It's learning you, and it's not always going to get it right the first time. And yeah, yeah, the key thing is we own the output. Cannot just blame it on AI. It gets you. You got to view it as a great first draft machine, but you are the ultimate reviewer and have to sign off on its results. And yeah, it makes lots of mistakes that you have to correct and teach it not to make the mistake again. So for sake of efficiency.
Do you feel, that you could eliminate the CFO and just rely on the third brain?
No, no, I think that will never happen. AI can do, I would say, financial analysis and planning pretty well. And there are people creating what they call CFO apps because they think that's what a CFO does is they know how to produce hundreds of different types of analysis. But what's missing is the judgment layer, the ability to read the signals that the business is facing to identify what is the right analysis, what is the right decision to make at that point in time. And that takes judgment. And I think it will never be able to replicate the judgment layer that we experienced CFOs have gathered up over the years from this learning how to read not just financial statements, but markets, people, landscapes, economies. There's a lot of signals to take in to come up with the right judgment as far as what is most important at that point in time. That's the judgment layer that I think will always make a CFO a valuable part of any equation.
So I know I experience this a lot where my clients and my prospects are putting a lot of questions and prompts into ChatGPT or Claude or wherever they're getting their information. And then they're coming to me and I'm having to feel through because maybe they prompted it the
Right.
wrong way. Are you experiencing that as much on your side of things as well, where your
Yeah.
buyers or clients are coming in?
Of course. And I encourage it actually because each person's Claude is different because it learns you, you prompt it differently. So when I say we have three brains in the game, it's really kind of four. Me, the business owner, my Claude, their Claude. And we'll be having our strategy sessions, our weekly updates, our decision, issue resolution and decision making sessions. And we'll each have our Claude in front of us and be doing dueling Claudes. But ultimately, it's the two humans that are driving the train, and Claude, the Claudes are the assistants that bring in knowledge to the forefront, but aren't making decisions.
I love it when, there's a lot of rules and compliance things that just in the insurance world that just make absolutely no sense. And I love it when a prospect or client plugs it in and validates that the crazy thing that I am telling them, I didn't just make, I didn't make up.
Yeah,
It actually is the way that insurance works.
I do think that it excels at compliance. That's why that. By the way, the gentleman who gave me that 3 hours of rah rah about ChatGPT was in a highly regulated business, and it was such a game changer in terms of being able to submit regulatory reports, 10Ks, all the all the compliance issues. It's it really eliminates labor in a big way, and I think you can be fairly confident in the compliance aspect of it. There's less judgment there. There's
Mhm.
some judgment, but a little less so. So I think it's a great at compliance.
If you were to, outside of, obviously what you do, but in the world, people, the thing that we get a lot of press about is what jobs will be eliminated around AI. Is there any jobs that you think are at risk because of AI that stand out to you?
Oh, yeah, right. A lot, actually, probably half the white collar jobs in the world. But the question becomes, will businesses just eliminate jobs, use AI, and hopefully the results fall to the bottom line? Or will they take that labor and use the other power of AI to unleash human creativity, have a creative partner, create new benefits for consumers, new competitive edges? Because, first of all, if you don't use AI, you're going to be roadkill. But if you use AI just to eliminate work, you're going to fall behind those who use it to unleash human creativity and come up with new and better ways to satisfy your customers.
I love that. That's a great way to frame it. So let's talk about, what you have a Monday morning philosophy. So tell me a little bit about Monday morning.
Yes. The traditional way businesses operated, especially for many small businesses that don't have a much of an accounting department or bookkeeping department, they'll just ask their CPA firm, just give me my monthly financials. And the CPA firms, they have, as their number one concern, protect their licensure. And they're all about 100% accuracy and maybe dual levels of review before they give you the information for two reasons. One is they want to have that reputation of accuracy, and also the more levels reviewed and they bill by the hour, the higher the revenue income for the CPA firm. But in this day and age of fast-moving markets, businesses, decisions, waiting halfway to next month's over is underserving a business. Ideally, they should wake up Monday morning to see how to do last week, and as a result, what's the most important financial decision I should make this morning. And that's what they should get. In fact, that's what I prompted Claude with when I had this vision of creating that Monday morning experience for business owners that led to the creation of Philnancial OS.
I love that. So how much time would this have taken you to build before you built this out and find in financial?
Yeah. Well, I've been doing it. I mean, my goal when I take on a client as a CFO is to get them faster, better, reliable information so we can have more timely decision making. And I did it pre-AI, but there was a limit to my capacity. I would range from 5 to 10 businesses, and I was getting close to 10. It was a struggle to keep up, and I wouldn't I didn't have the ability to go as deep in some cases. I think Philnancial OS for me, it's lifts the lid off my capacity. On my podcast, CFO Coffee Talk, started this season with the interview of the CEO of the Florida Institute of CPAs, who had, I thought, a good description of the way this works. If you're a football fan, are you a football fan, Brittany? No?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, it's like AI will get you maybe the first 70, 80 yards down the field, but it's always going to take a human to punch it into the end zone. So I think that's what AI can eliminate a lot of work, do a lot of prep, but what are you going to show up with? It could produce hundreds of statistics, but
Mhm.
someone's got to decide based on all I know about what you told me about your pain points, your goals, what I've observed about your financial statements, your team. What is the most important decisions to make today? That's where not having to do all the grind it out, produce all the analysis. Uh, it usually is a precursor for that decision is where the big savings is. It gets me closer to decision time at a quicker way. Ultimately, decision was mine, still is mine as far as what to recommend as the most important decision. But it's now I'm spending more time with the discussion about what do we do as opposed to all the analysis to get there.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, now that you have Philnancial, you were doing this before, but now you have Philnancial, you're able to go in deeper and
Yeah.
produce better results and go across wider breadth of clients. But how much, if you were doing just looking at one client, building the exact same output, if you had to nail down a time savings with having Financial versus pre-AI world, what would you think that the overall time savings is?
And the time savings would be for me. I was always striving to deliver timely information, but I spent some Sunday nights grinding out my CFO master file, my CFO command center. So I'd have it for that Monday morning meeting. It's allowed me to be able to watch more Sunday night football games now.
So if you tried to build, when you were starting to building the AI native brain, obviously you had the idea and you started putting in, how long do you think it took you to put it all together? And is it still a work in progress or?
Yeah, it's still a work in progress. It'll always be a work in progress because it learns from experience. But I came up with the original prompt earlier this year, and it was to create that Monday morning experience. And I challenged Claude to extract from my brain the 36 years of lessons learned so I can have this embedded into an AI platform that can be inserted into the data flow of a business, financial, operational, and observational. And I made it for about 2 straight months. I got up 90 minutes early every day. I couldn't wait to get up and go through this process with my cup of coffee, my dog's at my side, my laptop in my lap, and just be interviewed by Claude. And it asked the best questions. It asked me, first of all, it would present a whole variety of signals and situations, and then ask, what have would I what have what would I recommend that a lesser experienced CFO miss if you saw the situation? And really got me thinking about what the 36 years of CFO experience has taught me and how to respond to situation by situation. And for 2 straight months, 90 minutes every morning, I dumped my brain into Claude and came up with the first 63 rule cards across 20 different types of domains that I've now been testing with my clients and realizing that where I have a great general layer, I need to now work on a specific layer. I need to recognize that this thing will get better over time with more experience. Each decision brief I create on Monday morning, I see something that makes me say, "Oh yeah, I could put that into the system." So I think this thing gets better with usage.
Do you find yourself coming up with lots of new ideas and things that you just want to build all the time now that you have Claude at your fingertips?
Well, this is my love. This is it for me.
Okay.
There's a lot of different phases and angles of this thing. And then I do have other visions of maybe I can create a mentored operator approach so lesser experienced CFOs can benefit from it in a shared way. Brittany, I remember the first coffee conversation we ever had. We talked about AI and I talked about how it amplifies experience, and you were concerned about your kids growing up without the experience.
Mhm.
What they're going to have to amplify, and I think it's part of it that maybe I can create a second version of this that is I am considering it to be the mentored operator version. So the next generation of CFOs, it's they're primarily running it and interfacing with the client, but they have me as a backstop and me as a sales point that if you're a young CFO, how do you convince a business owner to test me even though I'm not that experienced? One way would say, well, I got the financial system and I got Phil as my backstop and my mentor. And I think that'd be kind of a cool next iteration of this thing.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. But to your point, you brought up, the young people. So if you're thinking about new CFOs that maybe don't go through the ranks and have all the same experiences that you had that built your career, and now they're relying so heavily on AI, do you have any concerns for the future CFOs of the world?
Well, I, of course, am biased toward the benefit of experience, having learned by it for so many years that I do think they're missing out. And the school of hard knocks and real life experience and been around the gym many, many times gives me a great advantage. So I know that you can be a solid contributor as a textbook CFO, taking what you learned in college or corporate America or your first one or two gigs and do all right. But I think it won't never be at the same level that someone who has the kind of experience that I've had. So I think if I can create something that allows them to tap into that, that might be the next iteration of the Philnancial app. Is that mentored operator approach?
Yeah, I mean, I love that, for, the aspect of being able to wrap around them. But I do still have, like you said, the experience when I think about my children, how quickly some of the information is there and not having the critical thinking. They just get the output and it's there for them. Will we have, 20 years from now? Is everybody just going to rely on the technology and not really just use their brains like we do?
Mm.
So, I have a little concern about that for sure.
I think mentoring is going to be a big part of the future. I would encourage your kids in that generation to number one, learn as much you can about AI, but also find mentors that who can help get some of their vast experience into your world, so you can better serve the people that are hiring you.
Yeah, no, I think there we're definitely going to run into it in the future. I've talked to an attorney who goes up to Washington and he says the same thing. They're concerned about what's happening for the people that never get to go. They're getting rid of a lot of paralegals, and that's how you learn to
Yeah,
become a lawyer. So if everybody's relying on AI instead of paralegals, people don't have the experience. So I wonder what other industries are going to be impacted in the same way that perhaps law will be.
yeah. No, I think that professions like law and CPAs, where there's a body of knowledge experience that can be processed with a tool like AI, it's going to eliminate a lot of labor and effort and get to answers quicker. I do think that for those two professions, the ones that figure out first how to use AI for efficiencies and pass efficiencies on to the clients are going to grab huge market share. And I'll give a shout out to a Tampa area startup called Fractio that is building a software to help those businesses that want to be leading the conversion to a new way of doing business that's more conducive to the AI world and change your practices from billing by the hour to billing by the outcome. And I think that world's going to change dramatically, and you want to be leading the change rather than being trampled by the change.
Is there anything that you used to pay for pre-AI that you don't pay for anymore?
Well, that's a great question. I am paying for a lot more subscriptions. I keep a digital asset Google sheet, my Google workspaces of all the subscriptions I have. And I know I'm paying for a lot more than I didn't have before, but I'm not sure. For me, it's expense saver. I think it's a capacity lifter. So my upside on how many businesses I can serve, which leads, of course, to my revenue is going to be the driver. So I'm thinking more on the revenue increase side than the expense reduction side. I have other expenses. I'm hiring a tech partner to help make sure I've got secure, reliable tech, and also a thought partner to help me set up myself to for maximum efficiency. And I got a VA I didn't have before, and there's just new expenses popping, but it's offset by the new revenue streams.
That's interesting. So AI is costing you a lot more money. For me, I could think of several things that I've eliminated. One being my husband and I don't go to couples therapy anymore. Now we
Uh,
people will think that's so crazy. I remember
uh,
telling one of my friends that, and he looks at me like I had three heads. But genuinely, if we have a dispute, we put it in, ask it to be unbiased, and that's a very expensive marriage counselor. $700 an hour is what she was billing. So
okay.
happy to get rid of that and not have to wait 3 weeks for the appointment. Just settle the dispute quickly.
Well, I kind of use Alexa as our marriage partner, usually in humor, so asking it to resolve disputes.
No, because at first I was loving it because it was always taking my side, which was what my husband always hated about couples theory to begin with. And now we sit down and we have to give both of ours to give our perspectives. You know,
Oh, good. Actually, we found switched from old Alexa to new Alexa and back to old Alexa because my wife didn't like the answers new Alexa was giving.
so tell me something that business owners should never rely on AI for. Is there any financial decisions that you just should not trust AI with?
Yeah, never trust unaudited, unverified AI. AI is a first draft engine, and I think you're still reliant on financial experience to apply that judgment layer to it. So I would say AI is an important part of your team, but should not be the only financial person on your team.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's actually true. But do you worry that maybe some business owners are going out there and thinking because AI sounds so confident, I don't need a CFO, and they plug stuff in, it just pops out confident answers to them all the time.
Yeah, they'll learn that they'll get different answers every time they ask, depending how they prompt. And yeah, some, one thing I've learned by testing out my financial app on my clients is that it was naive for me to think that there's going to be a one solution fits all approach. That in addition to have all this general knowledge in my head to come up with better answers, the real difference maker is my ability to learn the specifics about my client. I built an intake survey for business owners to put their pain points in and their goals. And when I started first producing my decision briefs, I uncovered that it came up with decent recommendations, but not. If I presented it to my clients, their reaction would be, "Phil, it's like you're not listening to me." All these nuances and uniques to my business things that we've talked about that makes us different, and it's not being picked up by the app. And I realized that was a design flaw of mine. I didn't provide for enough local nuance into the analysis and decision briefs. So I think it's always going to be a need for a human who's experienced, who listens well, who knows how to communicate and collaborate. That will always outperform AI alone. That was one of my AI coach's favorite quotes is AI enabled humans will eat AI agents for lunch. That was his quote.
So what do you think about maybe large corporations that have huge finance teams? Do you think that they will be reducing headcount within the finance team?
Definitely. Yeah, because a lot of the entry level, lower level, just grinding out analysis can be done by Claude just as easily. I think it's the lower levels of those organizations that are at risk. They better learn to be an AI enabler and craft a role for themselves that is different from what they've been doing, and just grinding out the analysis, grinding out the journal entries, closing the books. There are just a lot of things that AI can do faster and better. So that's where I think most of the savings are going to be, where there's more, there's do it work rather than think about it work. It's humans are better thinkers, AI is better doers.
So if you were, had a business owner that was listening in on this episode and they wanted to have one takeaway from you, what they could do differently with AI, what would you recommend?
To find that combination of deep real life experience and AI experience, that combination as part of your brain trust is a difference maker.
Awesome. And now always like to ask everybody, one of it's become a trend for us. We talk about business a lot, but name something that you've done personally with AI.
Okay. Well, I've created my AI agents, and one of my favorite all-time books was Tuesdays with Maury, about the guy in his deathbed was mentoring the author of the book was Mitch Albom, the Detroit Free Press sports writer. They made a movie out of it. I created an agent called Maury, so I could spend my Tuesdays with Maury. So I'm not a marriage counselor, but a mentor. So I've been using AI for some spiritual guidance. One thing I heard some wisdom that we should all put our values into our AI so that it can remind you when you're in the heat of battle that here's one of the values that you might be swaying away from by proceeding down this path. So
Love that.
that's what Maury does for me. It learns my values and we engage our spiritual Tuesday morning discussions, and I prompt it to make me a better human.
It's great that you said that because I actually put something into ChatGPT. ChatGPT is my more personal, just like you. And I put into ChatGPT an issue that I'm having. My nanny, she's having immigration issues coming up. So on September 2nd, she loses her status. And I was trying to think of all the ways to fix her, fix it for her, so that she could still nanny for us because we love her. And ChatGPT came back and said, that's it. This doesn't align with your values as much as you want to do the right thing for her. All the goals you have for your children, this would stifle that. So it just like to allow me to take a step back and
Yeah.
just remember because I can get emotional and clouded with I want to do the right thing by her, but ultimately it was at the detriment of my children. So I had to refocus. Thanks to ChatGPT, shift me a little bit. So I think having your values and just knowing who you are helps it to make better decisions. So I totally agree with that. Well, Phil, thank you so much for coming on. I always love talking to you. So tell everybody on Intelligence Resources where they can find you.
Okay. I'm a partner in the Florida CFO Group. Florida CFO Group.com has a partners page where you can click on a picture, my picture, and my email address and my phone number is there. You can reach for me on LinkedIn. And philnaha.com is where you go. That's my landing page for the Philnancial operating system app to set up an appointment to learn about it.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much for being a guest. And if you're listening to Intelligence Resources, that's what we're trying to cover every week, not what AI may do someday, but what people are actually doing today. So we will see you next time.
Thanks for having me on, Brittany.
Thanks, Phil.